Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm changing it up today and we're gonna do a little Ask Me Anything. I posted a question box on Instagram and you guys gave me a lot of questions, so I'm gonna get through as many as I can. I'm excited for this because it's a bit more long form and I have the chance to really elaborate and give more in-depth, holistic answers, if you will. It is so hard to concisely answer a question in just a little bit of text on an Instagram story, so I'm excited to answer here and give you guys the full scoop. So I'm just gonna go to my little question box and pull up what you guys asked. By far, the number one question that I got is, where am I in the conversation about baby number 3? So for context, at the end of last year, I was kind of floating around the idea, do we wanna have another baby? And if so, when? For full context, I have 2 boys. They were 2 under 2, so they're 16 months apart. I was 8 months postpartum with my first baby when we found out we were pregnant with the second. And it's been a wild 2 years, but honestly now they are 3.5 and my youngest just turned 2. It's amazing. They are so close. They are into all the same things. And I honestly feel like at this stage, we finally have our heads above water, barely, but we do. We can breathe, we feel like we have it handled. And honestly, for the first time, I would say we feel kind of like solid ground underneath us in this whole journey of having kids. That's a really interesting and exciting thing for us because we built this house 6 years ago. We moved in. We were kind of financially getting our feet under us in that way, getting into a new house, our first home ever. Then we had our first baby. That was a whole emotional life change event, and then also taking on a new financial responsibility. And then boom, we got pregnant and had a second baby. So we've just been kind of playing catch up all of these years to feel like we have that solid base. And we finally feel like now we're there and we want to enjoy it. So we recently talked about it again. It was coming up again and again. He would make a joke about it. I would make a joke about it. And at the beginning of this year, we were working with a CPA for the first time, doing taxes, boring stuff. And I just realized, I think we both did, that right now we want to enjoy and just try to be where we are for the first time and feel the fruits of all of the labor that we've put in. So what we kind of decided together is we're gonna table it for a year. We are just gonna not talk about it for a year. We want to just be where we are, enjoy where we are, start building towards the next phase of life and building this really strong foundation. And then we'll revisit. If you were to ask me today, I would say we're done, but I reserve the right to change my mind. So we'll circle up on this in a year. We're just tabling it for now. Okay, next, most asked question was about what do I do for work? So I share a lot of day in the life vlogs. You guys see me going to work, coming home from work. I work at a large organization in the learning and development space, and specifically I do corporate training and onboarding. So I onboard all of our new hires for the business unit that I work in, and then I do ongoing trainings for all of our associates and all of our teams. I love it. I used to be a teacher. I taught 6th grade for 2 years, 4th grade for 3 years, so 5 years total. And it was the perfect transition for me. I have so much I could say about the teaching journey, the whole transition journey, how I did it. I am going to make a dedicated video about that. Now that I'm in the swing of YouTube, I get a ton of questions about that. I have a lot of teachers who follow me who are very curious. And now that I have the whole setup of YouTube going, that is its own dedicated video. But in terms of what I do now, I work a hybrid schedule, so I work from home. I can work from home 5 days a week, but we do have an in-office day that I go into. I've been trying to go once a week. It's honestly ideal. The flexibility is really great, my team is really great, and I love what I do. I feel like I have grown so much in this role in the 3 years that I've been doing it. If you would have asked me whenever I was teaching or in college if I would be standing up in front of a room of 50 people delivering trainings, I would be shaking in my boots, and it has become one of my favorite parts of my job. I also really like training because I feel like you're kind of central in a company. Since I get to work with all of our teams, I have a good context of what our business does, and it's my perfect job. I love it so much. So that's what I do. It was a really great fit and such a great find for me. So I will make another video about the transition. So if you have questions about that, you can drop them below and I'll keep them in mind whenever I do the full teaching transition video. Okay, another common question that I got is about my relationship with my husband, how we met, when we got married, like what our relationship is like. So to give you the full scoop, we met when I was 19, he was 21. He was going to A&M. I went to another college at the time. I went to A&M to visit a friend. Him and I met and just immediately clicked and were like in love immediately, like obsessed with each other, puppy love, whatever you want to call it. And we moved in together a year later, like in college, which honestly cracks me up now that I am a parent. Like, what? Our parents were just like, sure, whatever. But we were like so in love, and obviously it worked out and was meant to be. We lived together for those years of college. I left my last semester to do student teaching, and I actually moved in with his family up here in DFW. And during that like last semester, I was technically done with school, but I had not graduated yet. He proposed, so we got engaged. We got married when I was 25, and we've been married for going on 7 years this year, which is nuts. Like, that's actually crazy. Some of like the follow-up questions I've gotten about our relationship is like, have we had hard times, and like, how do we keep the intimacy alive, and like, how do we stay connected? In terms of keeping intimacy alive, this sounds so simple. Touching and connecting for me go so far. If you watch my vlogs, I get comments on this sometimes. I like hug my husband all the time, like just small moments throughout the day. When you have kids, there is so much like input coming in all the time, overstimulation to the max, especially for me with ADHD. We can be in the same room and feel like miles and miles apart. In those moments, I know that if I just go and like hug him and like breathe him in, I am going to feel more connected, and it really works. Communication is key. That's so cliche, but it's true. I think especially when you have kids and like multiple schedules to balance, you really need to be like in lockstep communication for things to be successful. And so that's been really critical. And then another thing for me about staying connected is if I think about like a date night in, if we just sit and watch a show, I am not like feeling connected in that. I really need like intentional connection. So I would say just like evaluate how you're spending your time with one another, and if like the way you're actually spending time together is filling up your cup, or if there is like more exploring needed there. I always say if you need somewhere to start, there's this game called We're Not Really Strangers. I love it so much. It's a question set. They're little cards, and there's 3 levels of questions that you ask each other. It's just so fun to like stay curious about one another and continue getting to know each other, like no matter how far you are into your relationship. So that's a good place to start. And prioritizing intimacy. I know this is TMI, I'm gonna say it anyways, but like when we are not prioritizing intimacy, we are bickering more. And just like you're in that roommate phase, and it's just not as good. And when we are prioritizing intimacy, like we're in our flow state, we're like loving, and things are better. So just something to think about, however that may apply to your personal relationship. Okay, my next question is around like content creation. 1, when did I start creating content? And 2, would I leave my full-time job for content? So I started creating content after I had my first baby, when I was pregnant with my second, really just because I got on TikTok for the first time and was inspired, and kind of was thinking of it as like documenting little home videos, if you will. I have since really transitioned my content away from being like kid focused, because they didn't sign up for that, and that's something I think about all the time. I really want to respect their boundaries on social, because they're not old enough to say what their boundaries are. I have made what I feel comfortable with, and that'll continue to like evolve and change over time. But I love creating content. It is very inspirational to me, and I am constantly inspired with ideas, and I love doing it. I also love my corporate job. I love what I do, and I find a lot of like value in working, and a lot of fulfillment in working. So currently, right now, it is a lot managing both, that's for sure. But for context, I'm an only child. I grew up with 2 working parents. So that was really all I knew. When I got into high school and I was about 15, my mom became disabled and started staying home. So I got the first taste of what it felt like to have like a mom a little bit more involved, where she would like bring me lunch at school. I remember always wanting that when I was younger, but I didn't have the context. Even growing up, I didn't really have friends who had stay-at-home moms. And similarly, my husband has 2 working parents as well, so neither of us were really exposed to that lifestyle. I would always joke with him when we were like early married, like that I want to be a housewife, but that just never was like something we really discussed or thought about. Honestly, it wasn't until I started creating content, especially in those early days, I started getting like negative comments of people saying, oh, you're working, you're a bad mom, you should be staying home with your kids, that I kind of thought about it critically for the first time. I definitely see the value of staying home. And I think for me, what I ultimately want is like ultimate schedule flexibility. Especially like recently, I've had sick kids nonstop. I want to be able to guilt-free drop work and just keep them home, take them lunch during the day, pick them up early. Like that's my ultimate goal. I just don't know what that looks like right now because I love my job. I love my team. I love what I do. I love content creation. Like I am more inspired by content creation the more I do it. Taking on something new like YouTube, I love it. It like speaks to my soul. So who knows what the future holds there. Social media is also volatile. TikTok went away and came back within 12 hours. Like the pay can be all over the place. So there's just a lot to consider there. I don't have like a hard answer on that right now. Right now, I'm definitely going to just keep doing what I'm doing and figure it out as I go. And this is something I've thought about too because I share working mom content. I hope that if ever the day came that I made a transition, that would be received well by my audience. I think where I come from is I consider myself a content creator and not an influencer. I don't know what that difference means to you, but to me it just means like showing up authentically. And when I think about my social platforms, I think about them as my community. Like you guys are a community. You chose to be here and spend time with me. And that is like the greatest, most amazing thing about what I do. So a little bit of behind the scenes there. Okay, I'm gonna wrap here. I feel like I've been talking for a while. I did get a lot of questions. I would love to follow up and do a part 2 on this. Also, if you have any follow-up questions or anything specific you'd like to know, drop them in the comments and I will reply. As always, thanks for being here. It is so special to me that you guys chose to spend time with me today. It would mean the world if you would subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video, and let me know what you'd like to see from me next time.